Hi, and welcome to another one of my guitar instruction videos. In this lesson we're going to take a look at beginner level alternating bass for country blues guitar. If you want to play acoustic blues guitar in the old-timey style like you hear in the 1920s and the 30s, playing the songs of people like Mississippi John Hurt or Blind Willie McTell or pretty much any country bluesman, you're going to need an alternating bass. Reverend Gary Davis, Blind Boy Fuller, all these guys at one point or another employed an alternating bass. And the monotonic bass, the single note bass, that's also very helpful. And a lot of these guys employed both, sometimes in the same tune or the same song. They used different types of bass. An alternating bass is simply, in most cases, when you alternate your bass from a lower string to a higher bass string on one of the top three strings, or bottom three, the sixth, the fifth, and the fourth. Sometimes the third string can become a bass note. And if you listen to the playing of Bo Carter and Blind Lemon Jefferson, a lot of times they'll actually use the third string as part of their alternating bass. But for now, we're just going to start out real simple. If you're learning the alternating bass, let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. If you're playing in the key of G, first position G chord, just make a G chord. So I make mine with my ring finger on the third fret of the sixth string, my second finger on the second fret of the fifth string, and my pinky on the third fret of the first string. There's my G. Now the alternating bass, because these country bluesmen played by themselves, and the alternating bass was a way to fill in, to make the sound bigger. And in general, they're imitating the technique of a piano player. The left hand is your thumb. We'll be playing the bass notes. Your right hand, if you're playing piano, when you go to the guitar, is going to be your first finger. Sometimes your second finger thrown in there as well. But for now, we're just going to start with the two fingers. I've got a plastic thumb pick on my thumb, and I've got a plastic finger pick taped on my finger because I have really long, skinny fingers, and these picks don't stick real well. So anyway, here's an alternating bass in G. I'm going from my sixth string to my fourth string, while my left hand is making a G chord. That's what we call an alternating bass, alternating from the sixth to the fourth string. If you listen to that, you can also hear the third string ringing out. As I hit the fourth string, I'm hitting it hard enough to get the third string to ring out too, so I'm actually coming down on two strings. And I can play that harder and get more of a ring from that third string, or I can play it lighter, so you just hear that, just hear the fourth string. But usually the country bluesmen are trying to get the fullest sound they can, so they're coming down really hard on that fourth string. So that is the basic 6/4 alternating bass. Now you can mix that up, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Now if we switch over to the key of C, which is the 2 chord, one way we can do the alternating bass is if we just make a regular C chord, and we can alternate from the C, which is the 5th fret, 3rd fret of the 5th string, and the 4th string. A lot of times the country bluesmen, when they make a C chord, they'll use the ring finger. Reverend Gary Davis did this, and Mississippi John Hurt. They actually get 2 strings with the ring finger, the 6th and the 5th at the 3rd string. So when they're playing their alternating bass in C, they're going sometimes from the 6th to the 4th, sometimes from the 5th to the 4th. And then when you go to a 5 in the key of D, so there's a D chord, your D bass is a little different. This time you're going from the 5th string to the 4th string. Whoops, I'm sorry. The 4th string is the open D. 5th string's an open A. But you can hear it works with the D chord. So with those 3 chords, let's do some practice. And the first way to practice is to just play the G chord and just play the alternating bass. play that over and over again until you start to feel it become automatic. Your goal is to get to the point where that thumb will have a mind of its own. Once you start it on its alternating bass, you don't have to think about it. It's on automatic pilot. It's just going. And if you want to mix up the bass, then you can control the thumb separately from what you're doing with your index finger. Now that's the ultimate goal. To start doing that, you've got to just basically do repetitions and teach your muscles, get the muscle memory in the thumb and the thumb basically to just go 6/4, 6/4, 6/4 over and over again. And then you can do that with each chord. So you go to a C, I got mixed up there, going from the 5 to the 4 or the 6 to the 4. 6 to the 4, 5 to the 4. You can make a D chord. And practice that so you get comfortable in each chord. Then what I would try to do is switch chords. So go from a G to a C, back to a G, C, G, D, G, and practice mixing it up, switching chords. Now right now you're not playing any treble strings, no melody. You're just trying to get the bass, and that is a good way, at least in my experience, to get the bass, is just play it. Do it while you're watching TV. I'm a sports fan. I like to watch baseball, so a lot of times when I was learning how to do this, and even now just to practice, I'll watch a game, and then I'll have my guitar and just work on some things and see if I can do it while watching the game at the same time and work on both things. So practice that just over and over again. Now there's other chords that are commonly involved in alternating bass as well, and so I'm just going to show you real quickly what those are, and then I'm going to show you some exercises to start getting the treble strings involved. If you're playing the key of E, I'm making what I call a country blues or a Lightning Hopkins, Mance Lipscomb E chord, where I'm just using 2 fingers. Instead of playing with 3 fingers like this, which is your typical first position E chord, I've got my first finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret, and then I'm using my 2nd finger and getting both the 5th and the 4th strings at the 2nd fret. Now in E, your alternating bass is your open 6th, which is an E, and your 4th string. So again, just practice the alternating bass part. We'll go to the key of A, and just like the D, we're alternating the 5th to the 4th. And your E. Now if you're playing a B7, like this, so it's a B7th chord, I'm just alternating the 5th to the 4th string. 5th to the 4th string, and then the E. Another chord that you're going to use an alternating bass in is an F. This is a tough one. This is one of the hardest ones to learn. And you're going to make your normal F first position chord up here, and then you're going to have to take your thumb and wrap it around. You got to do that. It's painful and it's really frustrating and hard, and I still have trouble with it from time to time if I haven't been playing acoustic guitar for a while. And you got to wrap the thumb at the 1st fret of the 6th string, and then you're going to come down on the 4th string, so it's 6/4. And Mississippi John Hurt, a lot of his tunes would go C to F and then G, so you got to play the alternating bass with the F as well. So right now, those are the major chords if you're playing alternating bass with country blues that you need to know. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. I don't think I did. Alternating bass is used in country blues primarily in first position chords. Not always. Sometimes you actually do some bar chords and some other stuff. But to begin with, that's where you want to learn it. Now let's go back to the G and think of some ways to start practicing some treble stuff. Got my G, alternating bass. One thing you can do is just practice with your pinky going from the 3rd fret of the 1st string to the 1st fret. And see if you can get the alternating bass going. Maybe start out with just the G chord and just playing the melody. Then you can try to go back and forth. And then see if you can come up with other melodies. Now once you get the hang of that, try to invent something using your pinky and your 1st finger between the G7th, which is that chord, and your 1st position G. You can do the same thing with C. The Big Bill Brunsey type thing where I'm playing an alternating bass. I've got my pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. And I'm picking between the 1st string and the 2nd string, which is fretted at the 1st fret on the 2nd string. Again, just practice that repeatedly until you can do it without thinking about it. And then you can put it together and see if you can switch chords. Now all that is fine, but it's more fun to practice this if you have an actual song to practice with. So in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you how to play a real simple country blues tune. This is one of the first tunes I ever learned, called You've Got the Pocketbook, I've Got the Key. It's an old Reverend Gary Davis instrumental. I learned it off a video by Stephen Grossman, who teaches this really, really well. So I'm just going to show you real simply how to play it and what's involved in the tune. So be right back with that. Alright, to play Reverend Gary Davis's You Got the Pocketbook, I Got the Key, we're going to play in the key of C. We're going to start out with the C chord, and we're going to use our ring finger on both the 6th and 5th strings. So we can alternate the bass. Now a good way to start is just the way you start the song is you get your pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. So you're going to start out bass note, see if you can play that. You don't really move anything. Not moving anything on my left hand. And you may notice that a lot of times when I'm playing, I'm pinching 2 strings. And the idea of an alternating bass, when I first started playing this, I thought, wow, the bass and the treble are doing 2 different things at the same time. No, they're working together. And a lot of times you get what I call pinches, where you're pinching 2 strings together, plucking them at exactly the same time, a bass string and the treble string. So watch that again, see if you can see where I do that. There's the first one. When I kick off the song, I'm actually pinching the 4th and the 1st strings. And then I'm pinching the 2nd and the 6th. So the whole thing. So that's the first part of the tune. And then he goes to this line. So on my left hand, what I'm playing is I've got my pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, then I lift it up, then I'm putting it down on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then up. So the whole thing. And so with my right hand, I'm doing it real quick. quick pick. You just got to listen to it and mess around with it. So that is the first part of the tune. So one way to practice and get into the song is just to try to do that. Whoops. Do it over and over again until you start feeling comfortable with it. From there, the song is going to go to an F chord. So I've got my thumb fretting the first fret of the 6th string, and then I've got my first finger on the 1st and 2nd strings, 1st fret, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. So in the song, he does this. So here, when I go to the F chord, I'm actually pinching the 6th string and the 2nd string. And then coming down with the bass. And then, whoops, another pinch where I'm pinching the 6th string and then hammering down on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Like that, and then I'm picking up on the 2nd string, so the whole thing, whoops, whoops, there we go. So see if you can get that. And then I wrap up with the 5th fret of the 3rd string, or the 3rd fret of the 5th string, which is a C, and an open 1st string. So the whole thing from the beginning. And so I come back with the 3rd fret of the 5th string and an open E. And then he leads in back to the C with this, which is really kind of cool. And what I'm doing is picking up open 6th string, 1st fret, 3rd fret, like that. So the whole thing. Then I'm winding up on the 5th fret, or I'm sorry, the 5th string, 3rd fret, the C. And I'm going to go on with my bass from the 5th to the 4th, then back to the 6th and the 4th as I go through that. So the whole thing again. Whoop. Basically playing the same melody. When I get here, I've got a G chord, which I'm just playing the 1st position, G, not moving anything, alternating between the 6th and the 4, and picking the treble strings with my index finger. So let's do the whole thing again. So when I go to the G, which is the 5, now I'm plucking the 2nd string, and which is open, and the G, which is the 6th string. Hit the 3rd string by accident. So let's do that again from the F. Whoops. play change to the F. So I'm playing the same chords, just changing the melody a little bit, and then to the G. Whoop. That's a little tricky. I'm plucking 6th and 2nd strings with the G chord, alternating bass, and then my first finger is going to come down on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then I'm going to pick up the 2nd string, and then come back to a C, where I'm plucking the 5th and 2nd strings. So let me play that the whole thing through, all the way through. You may notice when I come back to the C, I'm using, instead of a straight alternating bass, I'm using a 6/4, 5/4. So I'm going on the key of C. Now you can move your ring finger between the 3rd fret of the 5th string and the 3rd fret of the 6th string, or you could just get both strings. My fingers are really skinny, so a lot of times if I'm doing that, I'll just bounce my finger back and forth. But see if you can get it where you can. I have trouble doing that. I got to use the whole finger. See how I'm doing that? That's another variation on the alternating bass. Gary Davis and Mississippi John Hurt and others will do that from time to time. Now the song has another part where he goes into an E, F, kind of a bridge part, but I'm not going to show that to you right now. In fact, if you want to learn the whole song, Stefan Grossman's got a guitar instruction video how to play blues guitar. That's where I learned this from. I'll let him show you the rest of the thing.